Hello, bot fans, and welcome to Red Square, Blue Square, your go-to for Battlebots recap and reaction. I'm your host, Richard Tiemann, and this is Season 2, Episode 3 of your go-to for recap and reaction of the one and only Battlebots, and we are recapping Season 6, Episode number 3, and tonight I have two more great special guests. One is a driver captain, the other is, well, you'll know him when you see him, or better yet, when you hear him. So without further ado, first, though, the warning. John, give him a warning.
Warning, this episode is full of spoilers, so you've been warned.
Perfect. All right, if you haven't seen the most recent episode, stop what you're doing, go watch it, then watch it again. Make sure you've got everything you need before you dive into this amazing content. So in the Red Square, we have another Sultan. We got to come up with more S words here. The Sultan of Suplex, Captain of Slammo himself, Craig Danby. Welcome, Craig. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Welcome back. Love your bot. Love your outfit. We're going to talk about that. You guys are definitely some of the more stylish ones in BattleBots. And in the Blue Square, make sure you lean in close for this one because he doesn't speak over a whisper unless he's laughing hysterically. It is the bot whisperer himself, Pete Abrahamson.
It is I, the bot whisperer, the one who's probably actually much louder than a whisper.
Thank you guys again. So I'm just going to come out and say it. We did this once already. We're doing it again.
You're giving away the magic.
There was a technical issue. This is the second time this season, so that's clearly how things are going to go for RSBS this season. But these guys are great. We're going to do it again. We're going to laugh just as hard, if not harder. So here we go. From the top, let's go down the fight card for episode number 3. First up was Hypershock versus Slammo. I was intrigued by this matchup. I think everyone is intrigued when Will Bales and his bot enter the battle box because Will Bales always looks good. The bot, on the other hand, it may look good. Will it function? Will it operate? Will it actually do what it's intended to do? And it very much did. We were hoping for a suplex to the upper deck. That did not happen, unfortunately, Craig. And I got to ask, since we're on this fight and now 0-1, Hypershock wins by a surprising knockout. Not many Hypershock knockouts, but it seemed like there may have been some issue, some technical difficulties. Like, walk us through what happened on your end of the fight.
Everybody before their fight has to pass what's called a functional test. And we did our functional test. And usually when I press the up and down on the lifter, which I happen to have my controller right here,
Ooh.
That is up and that is down. Hang on. That is up and that is
Props.
down.
Important.
Props.
Take it from me. Props.
So by taking off the upper arms and going for my anti-vert spinner attachment, which I had to have because BattleBots in my 8 fights has given me 6 vertical spinners and 2 horizontals. Just saying. I pressed that way in my functional test to lift. And instead of driving the lifter up, it drove the lifter down and snapped the weapon chain, which does all of the actual lifting. So we had to strip the robot and put a new chain in. And somewhere in the rapid rebuild that we had to do, we kind of got everything kind of up on the radio side. So usually you have forward, backwards, left, and right. And I had forwards, backwards, and like right, and then left. With the whole mixing thing, everything was plugged in weirdly, and we were late. We were super late for it, so a whole lot of things went wrong. That said, had that been the correct setup, forwards, back, left, and right stuff, I think the fight would have just lasted longer than it did. I don't think it would have changed the outcome. I think Hypershock was winning that almost no doubt, whatever happened, because Hypershock really brought it this year.
So did you just misplug your receiver? Put plugs back in the wrong locations?
Basically, and then
extensions mixed up?
Because we do the mixing on board the transmitter, we plugged it in backwards, and then I messed with the mixing to try and fix it. And I'm stood there trying to fix it, and I'm like, just whatever, let's just go. because I'm being shouted at by like a PA
Right.
who's stood in my face going, "You've got to get in the arena or we're going to kick you out of the competition." I'm about to throw this PA into the test box and have my way with him.
Keep your chin up. I do want to ask though, it's 2022. I know it was filmed in 2021, but just okay, for argument's sake, like it's 2022 with how advanced technology has gotten. Is there not a program that you guys can run it through like a first person shooter where it's just like, do you want up to be up and down to be down, or up to be down and down to be up?
It's all built in, and I just kind of half panicked and half ran out of time. It's like I've got this tiny little Californian dude who's super intense about us being in the arena, and I literally want to pile drive him like head first into the concrete because that's how annoying he's being about it. And I'm just like, screw it, let's go, let's just do it, let's get on with it, and let's just have a fight, and what happens happens. But I just kind of wanted it to be entertaining, and it was for Hypershock.
It was,
Ouch.
and that was a first for sure. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. So the rest of the fight card, and we have revenge of the red squares, because last week it was like all blue squares, and then we have red squares come back now. I'm keeping track this season for those that don't know, and we had 5 red squares win and 2 blue squares win. Speaking of blue squares winning, Valkyrie upset by unanimous decision by P1. Phenomenal driving by P1 and Valkyrie. It's tough when if you get flipped that your blade is just going over the top of your opponent. That's very tough.
The fact that P1 is probably the lowest profile robot out there right now.
Like a deck of cards with wheels.
I think it was even shorter than Perfect Phoenix. Like, I mean, it is the lowest bot. And once Valkyrie was inverted and it's driving and it cannot get purchased whatsoever, all it does is create this giant slope for P1 to drive under and push around.
All right, fight number 3, Huge took on newcomer Riptide. This is a new team and a new bot, very Bite Force-esque in its design. We're seeing a lot of that 4-wheel drive vertical spinner. Riptide gets a huge knockout, made quick work of them, but you know, it wasn't all Huge's fault necessarily. They got pinned in the screws, and I mean, what are you going to do about that? They tried to get out. Like, I think everybody gave them a chance to feud,
to roll out,
to drive out, and it just didn't work. So,
you know, I mean, for Huge, it was quick and it was unfortunate. I mean, it's the shape of their wheel. It was sort of like all of those things made it so that once they dropped behind the screw, there was no getting back out for them. Sadly. Riptide did a nice showing for their first time. I mean, that was great for a rookie bot to sort of come in there and pound away like they did. I like the egg beater is pretty massive and pretty deadly. There's a few new egg beaters that we'll see in the season that come that are got some oomph to them. And it wasn't bad. You know, it was a fun fight still to watch, even though it was quick. You know, it's good for Jonathan to sort of go, all right, how do I rethink myself for not allowing that to happen to me again? So
Fusion versus Cobalt. Cobalt with a new owner and a new country and a new driver and on and on and on. Chris did a phenomenal job explaining it all. I'm not going to even attempt to do it again. So if you watched it, you understand what I mean. But they get knocked out by Fusion. So as if Riptide knocking out Huge wasn't a big enough surprise, not only did Reese get a win, he didn't catch on fire in the process. So props to Fusion. Very good driving by Reese, and then possibly one of the best post-fight interviews we've ever seen on Battlebots.
Yes, comedically, it's hard to beat that interview at the end. It's worth tuning into that episode just for that interview and get the good laughs.
I drive back and forth to work practicing my interviews with Chris and Kenny. I know everybody else is doing it too. I run around the neighborhood and I practice doing it there too. So everybody's doing it. I'm telling you, that was totally rehearsed.
All right, next fight, Black Dragon versus
We didn't even talk about the fight though. You just skipped over the fight. We talked about the post interview, but we didn't even discuss the fight.
That's because I think just the fact that he didn't catch fire and beat Cobalt, it's just like what else can you say? The interview was the more entertaining thing.
We got to see Fusion in the way that they designed the robot to be. Like that was what they were wanting to perform with all the past seasons. And finally Fusion did the thing they've been wanting it to do. So.
And then Black Dragon gets a knockout over Ice Wave. Now, I love Ice Wave, I really do, but it seems to be a trend so early already in this season that these bots that were part of bounty hunters or considered legends, it's like that people have figured them out and they're not willing to change, maybe, but Ice Wave still such a deadly bot. It just, I think, was that Black Dragon just too quick for it. But they're a really good bot, very well driven out of Brazil. I mean, they know their stuff down there. Witch Doctor versus Duck, unanimous decision for Witch Doctor. So Duck came in, new look, tried to lift and get under Witch Doctor, but essentially could not do so, and then went the distance, which is good, but that thing is still like a brick. I feel like
it was a bowed brick after this one. I don't know if you noticed carefully, but there was a little bit of a sag in the middle. They took a
banana for reference.
Yeah.
And finally, the main event, Copperhead, one of my favorites. Last year, they really made a name for themselves, versus Lockjaw, our first split decision of the season. So Donald Hudson, just like Ice Wave and Mark DeWitts, and then Ray Billings and Tombstone, you know these names, you love these bots, but I don't know if it's just bad matchups or bots that are just actually that much better than they are, or what's going on. But Peter, let's go ahead and open this up for discussion here, because, you know, I went to the Googles and looked up Pete and Ronan, because there was a beautiful feature on you in the last episode. And I was like, this is the Battlebots I remember, the Comedy Central days, where the bots were not four-wheel verts. They were whatever you could come up with that you weren't using in your shed, and you put a sharp object on it and then wheels, and then that was your bot. I mean, you had a track bot with an actual saw, not a spinner. And this thing looked so outlandish, but it didn't look any more outlandish than the rest of the field of competition there. And that you just don't see a lot of that these days, except for with Ice Wave and then Lockjaw, who's kind of, you know, dumbed it down a little bit, doesn't have the hammers anymore. So what have you noticed as far as the evolution of the sport? And are the days of outlandish bots, save for Huge and Mammoth and Kraken, starting to be a thing of the past?
You know, I mean, one of the things that we're seeing is we're seeing the sort of distilling down of the designs. Like these shapes that are the most efficient have become the dominant forms. And that's sort of, you know, any sport or any kind of thing, you would see that in evolution. You see that out there in nature. It's like, oh, look, this is how teeth work, and these are how eyes find things. So, wow, I can find my meal much easier if I can see color. So, you know, we just sort of evolved into this direction with the robots to be utilized. I mean, one of the things they're doing is all the verts obviously are using physics more efficiently than everyone else. Horizontals, they get launched across the arena because their force is equal and opposite and shoots them back. Verticals, they shoot it right through the floor, so they stay where they are while launching their opponent in an upward direction. You know, so that's a definite plan for most of these builders, is to be, wow, let's make my bot better and more efficient by going that way. I personally don't want to see the Chomps disappear. I do not want to see the Huges or the Mammoths or the Slammos disappear. I want these type of bots there because I want to see a variety. I mean, eventually, you know, the game is not fun if it's all a box of scissors. We need rocks and we need paper. You know, we cannot just have a giant
lizards and Spock.
Exactly. We need variety. And that's what keeps it lively. And also it's what keeps it from people going, wait, have I seen this fight before? You know, we want shapes and colors and everything to always be very different. Yes, back in the day, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just trying stuff, you know, and we're finding what was working. And now everybody's seen our mistakes and know what's the better path. And that's sort of why directions have gone the way they have with robot design.
Yeah, back in the day, the Comedy Central days, as a fan watching this, there was a real vibe of what's in my garage? What am I not using? What can I make into a weapon and then add wheels to? Like that was, I mean, it was just a bunch of guys, you know, buddies that are just like, hey, are you using this? Well, Craig, let's get some perspective from you, because you've competed both, you know, here stateside as well as overseas. So there's a lot of different cultural things about BattleBots or Robot Wars, or, you know, the different places you've competed. You could join the rest of the herd and the meta that is like, okay, this is what works. You get low, you get 4 or 2 wheels, and then you have a spinner and you just wreck them. And then if you get wrecked yourself, then you just push them until the time is up. You refuse to do that. You want to compete, but you also want to be actually in the show. So you have to kind of pick, you know, hey, how different do I want to be? But I know that you still enjoy it. So, you know, walk us through your process each off season, as far as like, okay, so it's not going to be a vert and it's not going to have a spinner of any kind. This is what Slammo is, and this is why I'm choosing to do a control slam bot.
I used to build, I mean, obviously I had Predator and I had Foxtrot, and back in the UK I had Foxic. And the thing that drove those designs was I really wanted a toy, and I thought they'd look amazing as a toy. I am still very competitive. I've competed in other things. I played rugby to a fairly high standard, and I played, well, I played like professionally for a little while. Got injured and couldn't carry on, but I've always tried to be the best that I can be, and that doesn't necessarily fall in line with my thought process, because when the meta is going like, we're going to do this, my thought process is, well, how can I counter that by going a completely different way? And but nobody is taking the time. So everybody's so fixated on having to have a bot that gets on the show, that is showy and is different enough to get on the show. And everybody panics about, like, I've got to get on the show. What be, you know, I want to be on the show every single year, and every single year I panic about whether I'm going to get on the show. But I kind of always try at least a little bit to stick to my guns. I'm not building a vertical spinner. In fact, we had a team build session, and they're like, okay, so the new robot looks like this. What would happen if we put a vert in the middle of it, you know, so that we can try and win the championship? I was like, we're never putting a vert on it, ever. Like, screw you guys, are all fired. But what's even better was that I sent Pete a picture of the robot. I was like, hey, this is what I'm building. He goes, I'm sorry, we're only accepting 4-wheel drive vertical spinners now. Sorry.
This is something we're coming to kind of an area, a point in time where the line is blurring as far as the innovation and creativity and the meta of what works and what wins on BattleBots. And so I think Martin Mason has a great program, if you will, where his team are his students, you know, and so they're a younger generation now that's inspiring more younger generations. But it's like, that's how they're coming together to make this thing work. This is hands down probably one of the most expensive hobbies that a person could have, is competing in BattleBots, because you guys spend
heroin
way more than you win. But I know that yeah, Legos too.
Warhammer.
Oh, actually, I think you win.
But I know that for you guys, you know, you don't retire because you can't do it anymore. You retire because you get bored. You don't get too old. You just, you know, you don't want to anymore, and you want to let somebody else kind of have their go. And you're seeing with the younger generation, they're seeing a lot of the same things with 2 or 4-wheel drive spinners coming out. But yet we want there to be that creativity and innovation that has made BattleBots great. So Pete, you've been there, done that. You've seen what this show has started as and what it has come to, because you're now the bot whisperer. But Craig, you know, obviously you're somebody who has been around for a while that's still inspiring younger generations. Like, how would you encourage people to continue to be as creative as they want, when it's like, you look at the first 3 episodes, and with the exception of Mammoth, Huge and Switchback, and then you guys, and, you know, these really odd bots are in the loss column so early on, and Kraken too. I mean, it's tough because it's still a competition at the end of the day.
Well, one, don't ever rate a bot on one fight or even a season, like, because builders can have the worst, shittiest season, and it's it happens. Donald has gone away with no wins, and it's Donald, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he is. It's amazing that had happened to him, but the chaos of the box changes everything, that you're not always prepared for every single moment.
I primarily do this because I enjoy it. I get very competitive and I get really into it and I spend a lot of money on it. But if I mentor a couple of smaller teams, and I mentor a first team now, which is another story, but whatever. And the only thing I ever tell them is, like, if you're not having fun, stop. If this is not something you're enjoying, stop. But if you allow yourself to, like, you get through the stressful moments and you get through the fights where you've had your ass handed to you, and you look at the robot and go, geez, Will really should have held back just a little bit. But I enjoy every aspect of it. I enjoy the stress of it. I don't think I do at the time, but I enjoy everything about it. So my advice would be to just go with the flow. If you can't enjoy it, then what's the point? So just enjoy it.
Fair enough. And I like the insight from both of you. I think that's very much what we needed, because today's generation is very much a, well, what's in it for me, kind of thing. And that's why you see
fun is what's in it for you.
Yeah, fun is what's in it for you. Exactly.
The love of it, like the love of building, the love of competing, the love of, the family that is the builders is such an amazing group of humans. Like, it is unbelievable how giving, and the sharing of intellectual content, the sharing of parts at an event, the sharing of beers afterwards. Like, I mean, there is a camaraderie that is just, it is amazing at how bonded we all are together.
Well, speaking of Oddbots, the first 3 episodes, wins and loss records, I mentioned every season that there's a few fights that I thought maybe could have been done differently. Now it's TV. I get it. It's a pre-recorded competition. Battlebots loves their teasers and their, well, maybe this one will happen later on down the road, but I love a rematch. So there's some fights I'd like right out of the gate. The Jason and Maddie Vasquez, I think, would have been a great first fight for the first episode. And maybe we get a rematch down the road, but I get it. If you want to save that for later, save that for later. But I feel like,
hold on, let me text Aaron. Aaron might be listening. We'll see if we can get this one.
But some of these, specifically tonight, there was a lot that I felt like, well, what if we just would have changed this? Maybe it could have gone a little differently for some of these guys and they would have had like a chance, but it's more dream matchups. Really, I would have liked to see Ice Wave versus Huge. I think those two in the same ring would have been a lot of fun. But Pete, you've got this look on your face like, I don't know about that one.
That's just
my feeling is, yeah, well, it is. My feeling is it would have come out almost identical to what happened prior to what we saw 3 seasons ago, where Ice Wave just cut. I mean, maybe with the Tigress wheels, Huge probably would have gone with. It would have been able to resist the cutting blade that is Ice Wave. Remember I sort of said we didn't want to sort of have things that look like, oh, I've seen this before. That was sort of the thing. I mean, yes, I would love to see Jonathan have a chance to be able to take out Ice Wave and change the dynamic of what had happened before. But there's a lot of robots out there and we want to get them all to have eventually fought each other, right? Everybody needs to have at least had them. And Craig needs something besides a vertical spinner to fight. So,
well, speaking of Craig, another bot that you could have just switched a little bit around would have been Duck. I mean, let's have him for 3 minutes slam the bot that can't break. I mean, that would have been amazing.
So what do you think about matchups though? What can each other, like, what is the balance between these bots? Like, what is the show you're going to get? Craig would have definitely been able to grab and suplex. Duck would have gotten and pushed him around, slammed him into the wall, gotten the beak to open up and push him, lift him up. We probably wouldn't have gotten the massive destruction and the sparks and all of those, but where would the fight have gone? I mean, what do you perceive the fight had been?
I feel like there would have been a moment where the camera goes to Craig after about 2 minutes in, and he's just like, would you just stay down? like just stay down.
Stay down. Stay down. I'm tired of grabbing you. Yes.
I'm
So that
so bored
could've
of
been-
suplexing now.
How dare you say such things?
Well, the third fight that I thought we were so close to getting, and BattleBot historians out there, you'll have to let us know if this has ever happened in case one of you two know offhand. Has Valkyrie ever faced Witch Doctor? Because this is like, if it hasn't happened before, I feel like we're missing a huge opportunity.
I'm
for
going to
the
go on a
battle.
limb and say it has not happened. I don't think it's happened. I
I
don't
don't
think
know
they've
how
ever
that-
sort of in any tournament tree have met or been in the same spot.
That's a main event fight. Like that's the battle for the queen of BattleBots. I mean, like,
I mean, that would be pretty good because a horizontal versus a vert. I mean, it would be pretty impressive to watch that, to
yeah.
see how that goes.
All right, so there, I'm giving away ratings here. I mean, that's there you have it.
Free shows.
All right, so
Millions of views with this one fight.
it's gonna get tens and tens of views on TikTok.
Tens of views.
All right, well, how about the biggest upset of the night as far as matchups go?
For me, I would say one of the bigger upsets, and it was the sort of sad thing, was huge. Not really being able to continue on, like being trapped like that was definitely sort of it's not like, oh my God, so and so really got the better of that other bot. It was that this fight didn't get to continue, and that was sort of what I'd find to be the upset. It ended too early.
I think for me the biggest one would be biggest upset would be that there was a split decision in the Lockjaw Copperhead fight. How was that a split decision? How was it? Come on, Derek.
Come on, Derek. Not to
One
drop
thing
names.
I have to say, I mean, I looked at all those scorecards and I know how the matrix works, and the new judging matrix has the split decisions are so much closer. Like everything is getting so tight that when people are freaked out and going, oh my God, that's a controversial call, it really isn't. When you look at the numbers, they are within a point of each other, you know. But
Well,
I would have given it all to Copperhead too.
Yeah, I agree with that. I knew it was going to lean Copperhead's way. The split decision was a little surprising, but the biggest upset for me, and it's not anything against Reese, but it's just like Cobalt. You look at that bot's history, and then who has it now and who's driving it now. It's just like you're stacking the deck, and then it goes out there and it works flawlessly. And Cobalt just has this little addition to it that was a mistake. And now it's a completely different fight. I mean, well done, Reese. Props to you for the driving, the fact that your bot did not catch on fire. And just, I'm so in awe of what we saw Fusion do, which looks like this is what it was meant to do originally. Hydra's 0-1 and Fusion's 1-0. I never thought I'd see the day that is how the Ewert family would start off a BattleBot season. But what a time to be alive, and you guys are having the time of your lives in Vegas. I'm loving the production value. I'm loving everything as far as the promos for the fights, the lead up, the red and the blue, and it is now 9 in the red square, 12 in the blue square after red square came back in episode 3. So we're getting closer to being evenly matched. Not that it matters in any reason whatsoever, but we just like to have whatever data and whatever stats we can, because that's just what we do here in the world of BattleBots. But Peter, before we hopped on, I had a Mystery Science Theater on in the background. And so I'm curious, with all the production value and the way that BattleBots is trending, how long until we get Tom Servo and Crow as either guest judges or on commentary?
Well, I'll have to make a phone call, since both Greg, Trey, and I all know Joel Hodgson and his brother Jim, who's Joel, creator of Mystery Science Theater 3000. I mean, he did early comedy at like Robot Wars 95 or 96. I can't remember which one. They did some bunch of silly, crazy robot skits that they would do in between fights. So I did some stuff. Built some puppets for him in the years past. So maybe we could get talking into doing something fun, having their way with an episode or two. That would be pretty amusing, or at least one fight. You know, that would be pretty fun.
That would be great to see the little silhouettes pop up
Yes.
on the bottom.
This is horrible. This is so brutal. How can they do this to robots?
And Craig, you hands down have one of the best outfits now in Battlebots. I mean, there was some pretty stiff competition, but you came
need the
out
proper glasses to look at them.
in the 3D friendly. I don't even know what kind of suit you would call that, but I'm looking and I'm liking, like, this was a great get up for you guys in Slammo.
Well, I mean, we were in the run up to filming, and it became very apparent that the British teams were not going to be able to go, and I'm really not that patriotic, but I just thought to myself, like, someone's got to fly the flag, and I've got a British guy driving a bot that was built in America, and you've got Matt Maxon, who's an American guy driving a bot built in Britain. It's like, I went to give him the flag, and he's like, no, I can't do that. So I was like, all right, guess I'm wearing a sarong. So I am wearing something underneath the flag. I have had a comment or so that, what have you got underneath? I have shorts on underneath the flag. I did want it to look like a sarong. I also have boots and knee-high socks, just so everybody's clear. The Dazzle camo that is 3D. We didn't get to do anything with it. Maybe I can do a video separately, but it's 3 layers of vinyl. So there's a printed circuit board layer, which is the base layer, and then there's the red on transparent, and there's the blue on transparent. So it's actually 3D, but in the red, it has the name of our sponsors: the Chest Machine Tools, Benchmark Abrasives, Oshka, and it just repeats on the chevron. So, and then in the blue, it's got all of the names of people that help build it. So myself, my wife, my brother, Randy, Jason, Matt, Mark, and Mike, I think, is still in there. And so we've got all of our names and stuff in it. So when you go blue, you can see all of our names. And when you go red, you see all of our sponsors, and otherwise it pops. So quite a lot went into that. And it's like, it didn't get any kind of like screen time, but maybe next time.
Maybe next time. It's very creative, though. I love it. You look like you're about ready to charge the ring and take on Martin Mason in some kind of match, though, which would be amazing.
Wheelchair match.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for the chance to do a redo here. I don't think any of the content was the same. So
of course not. You had me involved. They would never be the same twice.
No, can never be the same twice. And so we've got a new episode coming up this week of BattleBots. Unfortunately, though, I will be out of town, so I don't think there's going to be a chance for a new Red Square, Blue Square. We might just do a double feature the following week. So I'll let you guys know. But hey, you too, thank you so much again for joining me. It's been a lot of fun to have you on here, and we've covered a lot of ground. So for Slammo and Craig Danby and the bot whisperer Pete Abrahamson.
Whisperer?
Whisker.
Whiskey. There's more whiskey? What?
Next time.
Something with a WH. I'm Richard Tiemann. This has been Red Square, Blue Square. We'll see you guys next time.